Well, fans of the old silver and black feeling a bit blue today. NFL owners, of course, yesterday voted to move the Oakland Raiders out of the Bay Area.
Warriors fans cheer on the team in their last regular season game at Oracle Arena.
Approve owner John Fisher's plan to relocate his franchise area. The Oakland Athletics are officially moving to Las Vegas.
Closed out their time in Oakland.
And emotions have been ranging from indifference to anger.
And Oakland is back. Here we go. The newest expansion team coming to the NFL, the Oakland Sentinels, with the goal to win a Super Bowl championship in 5 years and set the record for the fastest expansion team in any professional sport to ever win a championship. Step aside, Las Vegas Knights. It's time for history to be made. The Oakland Sentinels are here to stay. Welcome to the Oakland Sentinels Expansion Team Series. Oakland's got a team. Oakland, over the course of the past, 5 years has it been? They've lost 3 professional teams. First, they lost the Oakland Raiders. Then they lost the Golden State Warriors. Not a lot of people know that. They were in Oakland, moved to San Francisco. And now this year they're losing the Oakland A's. I'm a NorCal kid. I'm from Sacramento area, right? Repping Sacramento Kings. It's not a good look. It's not a good look on Oakland. And I said, man, I figured now's a better time than ever to bring one back. So our ownership group, it's going to all start with Marshawn Lynch, who's a better player or better person to present the city of Oakland than with Marshawn Lynch. This has been a long-time guy in the community, and, I think he's just a match made in heaven. You're going to see his name up in the top right corner, so just know, hey, where does that come from? That's what it comes from, Marshawn Lynch. Let's go beast mode. Next is going to be the head coach of our football team. That's going to be the foundational piece. We got nobody, right? We got nobody. We don't got any coaches. We don't have any players. We're going to have to start everything from scratch. So today's video, it's going to be that. We're going to be diving into the off season. We're going to be picking our coach. We're going to be picking our players. And we're going to be jumping in to our first regular season in existence. In a normal expansion scenario, this is as real as it gets. We're going to be dictated by many of the rules that the Houston Texans dealt with in their 2002 expansion draft. 1, we're going to have an expansion draft to pick our players from. 2, we're going to have extra draft picks for the college draft. I don't know if people realized it. The first 2 seasons of the Houston Texans, they actually had 28 picks. They had 14 picks in each draft, in a 7-round draft, right? 2 per draft. 2 per round, essentially. We're going to be doing that as well. Everything excluding the first round. So we'll just have 1 pick in the first round. But a lot of draft picks. We're going to have an expansion draft. We're going to have free agency, as shown here on the board here, right? We're going to have free agency to go through. But we're going to be going through a lot. So, first things first is going to be the foundational piece. Who is going to be our coach? And our coach is going to be, drum roll please, Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is going to be our coach. The offensive scheme we're going to be focused on is going to be really built around Mike Vrabel, right? And the defensive scheme, both of them. Hard-nosed, physical, tough, smart football team. In real life, Mike Vrabel got fired from the Tennessee Titans. It was a big shocker in the NFL world. I couldn't believe it. And when he got fired, I thought for sure he was going to get hired. Well, the coaching changes, the coaching carousel, per se, has come and gone, and Mike Vrabel is not a coach of an NFL team. Well, that all changes today. So, the focus of that is we're going to try and really epitomize what Mike Vrabel football is going to be. He's that tough type of mentality. We're going to be a run-first team. So first things first, right? It says up here in the top right corner of him, offensive scheme, vertical, power, run. That's going to be the focus of us. We're going to be a run-first team, and we're going to take our shots when we can. I'm hoping we're going to be able to build a team over time that's going to be able to emulate him. Number 2, it's going to be a 3-4 defensive scheme, right? He's a 3-4 guy. He always has been. He comes from the Patriots and then has built his system there in Tennessee. Always been a 3-4 defensive system, right? That's what we're going to try and emulate. One of the things with his Tennessee Titans football team is they always were run first. They were built around that Derrick Henry team. But in reality, they never really had an elite defense. Hopefully, we can build a team that changes that. Be very defensive focused, be what he wants to be, while still be able to run that football. I think there's not a better match for an expansion team. Mike Vrabel is the type of guy that can really match just about any team and just about any talent level, and he's going to be able to produce something out of it with the way he plays if he can get his type of players. And that's what we're going to try and do for him, and that's what we're going to try and do in general. Next up, we're going to want to see and pick our players. So I've attached in the description below the player pool that I picked from to do this expansion draft. I definitely recommend checking that player pool out. It is just a accumulation of really a lot of players. One that were cut in real life. This is March of 2024. Right, the season's over. We've got to see now the New Year's began a lot of what these teams think about what their players were last year by the way they've treated them. They've cut a lot of players, right? They've let a lot of those go. They've also got a lot of new players. So the list that I put together was a list of really a lot of cut players, as well as a list of some of the players that maybe are on the bottom of the, kind of bin on their team, maybe on the verge of making the team, maybe even some practice squad type of players. But the core of all of this, right, is that Houston Texans expansion draft rules. Some of the foundations of those rules are every team has to present 5 players. 5 players that are under contract for the 2024 season. These can't be players that are just had their contract expire. So these are players that are still under contract. So you're going to see a list of players that have ranging contracts from 1, some of them have 5-year deals in this pool. Either way, that is the concept. The other little hidden nugget rules that are in their expansion draft is there can't be any players that were injured in last year's summer. So guys that were in IR and didn't play the whole season. None of those guys are going to show up. If they got injured in season, you're going to see some injury-prone players in that player pool. Then those guys will be in the player pool. But if they were injured and out for the whole season, before the season even started, not in the player pool. Each team can also only present 1 10-year veteran. You're going to see that. The same rule applies for us. We can only take 1 10-year veteran. So that's going to be the same for us too, right? We're dictated by that rule. The other thing is too, in terms of what we are able to select as the Oakland Sentinels, what we could select is only at least, not only, but at least we had to pick at least either 30 players or 38% of the salary cap. Well, the salary cap in real life right now is $255 million, right? So that threshold is roughly, it's close to 100 million, roughly, right? Is right around that range. The strategy behind it is either are you going to go the route of picking 30 players and picking, just saying bare minimum, try and get all our players from free agency, or are you going to go the route of picking players that are higher, more expensive players, and maybe you get less players, and then you come back in drafts or free agency to fill out the rest of your roster. For us, we made the decision to go a route of picking more expensive players mixed with some less players, and we ended up with a total of 21 players on our roster. So let's go ahead and show that roster off. On the offensive side of the ball, some of our big selections were Ronnie Stanley. This is probably our highest rated player in terms of Madden on our team. Ronnie Stanley, he's been a bookend blindside left tackle for the Baltimore Ravens for a very long time. This is the type of player, when he plays, he's one of the best left tackles in the league. The key here is when he plays. The reason the Ravens got rid of him and put him in this pool is because he hasn't played a lot. This past season, he did play 13 games, but didn't really play at a high level, and he carries a cap hit of $26 million over the course of the next 2 years. Now, about as good as it gets for a player that was in that expansion pool, and we got to just take what we can get. He's 30 years old. Hopefully, we can make the most out of him over the course of the next few years. Hopefully, he can have a little health to him. If he doesn't, we may have to get rid of him. But for the time being, I think this is a no-brainer selection and somebody that could really help if he plays. Some of the other big ones that we selected that I think has a lot of potential is Jonnu Smith. This is a former Tennessee Titans, former Mike Vrabel player. This is a guy who's 29 years old, right in his prime. I think has a lot of tread left on the tires for this guy. I think he has an opportunity to even be potentially a long-term fit. Somebody that could be reliable maybe for a young quarterback in the future, for a vet quarterback, whatever it may be, just somebody reliable to be throwing to. Some of the other players that we also picked is Charles Leno. Charles Leno really is a left tackle showing up here on the left guard, but he brings a lot of flexibility. He was left tackle for the Commanders and for the Bears, long-time left tackle for both of them, has just been a quality player for the bulk of his career. This is our 10-year experience vet that we picked, right? The rule was only one. Here we're taking our one. Do I necessarily think he's a long-term fit? No, I don't think he is. But here's one thing that's going to dictate a lot of this. One thing is offensive linemen are not always the easiest to fight. And it's getting worse and worse and harder. The more these years go on, the more athletic the defensive players get. This has been a struggle in general. And the same thing applies on Madden. It's difficult to have. Without a good offensive line, it's difficult to do much, especially when you don't have a great team. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. Let's get a guy who's played a lot. He probably could play the guard position with his size. Has he? No. But I think for us, he could play the guard position. Maybe we can pop him over to the right side when Stanley's healthy. He can even be a good replacement on the left side when he's not. I think it was a no-brainer. But that's going to be dictated a lot of the decisions we made, including Bosman, right? Bosman is a center. He also can play guard. I think he will be another starter for us on our team. I think he has some potential there. He's 29 years old, very big, physical type of a player. He's coming in 325, 6'5". I would prefer him playing guard, but he's that power type of player and that just emulating what we want to be. He actually played with Ronnie Stanley, right, coming from the Ravens originally, but ended up on the Panthers. Those are kind of the three core guys. We got some fillers in Dennis Daly. He actually played with the Tennessee Titans, played with Mike Vrabel for a little bit. This is a rookie straight out of Oregon. I don't even want to try to say his name. I don't mess that up. And then we also got Larry Borum. He's a left tackle, but I think he's going to end up playing guard for us. He may even start for all we know. He's 25 years old. He has some potential as well. To fill out the rest of our offense, Devontae Parker, a longtime vet, in this league. A guy that I think could bring a lot to the table. He's 31 years old. We could keep him for 2 years. At least he brings some possession receiver. He's 6'3", 220, brings some size. I felt like it's a good addition for the price. Alexander Mattison. This is a guy who I'm excited about, right? You're coming from a team like Mike Vrabel who always loved to run the ball. There's a lot of tread left on these tires. He's 26 years old. Yes, he has 5 years of experience, but he wasn't the starter for the Minnesota Vikings. He was backing up a long time for Dalvin Cook and did not get a lot of touches. This past year was his first year starting, and the Vikings let him go. And he has a 1-year, $4 million deal for us. I think that's a great deal. I think there's opportunity he could be a long-term fit, somebody who could even get better and better as time goes on. But we'll see. We'll see what the opportunity holds. It's all about health when it comes to running backs. And boy, does our team need one, as we're going to really want to run the ball a lot. Hopefully he could be a starter. Maybe we'll end up grabbing somebody else to also, run the ball with him. And then some other fillers, Sam Ehlinger, longtime, Colts quarterback for the past few years. He's 25 years old, still some life left in him. Yeah, he's 57 overall. He probably won't be a starter for us. This is probably going to be a guy who's going to be a backup, maybe long-term, maybe not. He's got a 1-year deal with us. I figured, take him. He's cheap. There's some opportunity there. Last pieces here is just two tight ends. Both of these guys are young. This guy's a 1-year pro, or now a 2-year pro, and this guy's a rookie. Both 6'6", 250 type size, both possession, a lot of opportunity, a lot of youth to them. I think there's an opportunity to kind of kick the tires on them and see what they come out with. Defensively, Defensively, there's a few players I'm really excited about. None more than Kevin Byard, right? Reuniting with Mike Vrabel. Couldn't be more excited. I think this is a killer opportunity to bring it back, right? He was with Mike Vrabel the whole time that Mike Vrabel was in Tennessee, just a Mike Vrabel type of player. He was a Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro. Yes, he's 31, but he doesn't miss many games. If anybody knows anything about their relationship, this last year he got traded away from the Titans, and it was one of those, like, Mike Vrabel was even emotional at the press conference. He wasn't excited about it. He went to the Eagles, and Eagles, hey, they put him in the expansion draft pool, and there's no way we're not taking him. I think he's going to be a great scheme fit, obviously knows the system, great vet. I think it's somebody for sure. In this expansion draft, I'm trying to find players, not necessarily that are always going to be, you want to find the long-term fits. That's the end goal. But if anybody, you can tell, right? You go in there to that expansion draft pool. There's not a lot of long-term fits. So I quickly turn the table to the next best thing. Guys that know the system, know Mike Vrabel, vets that can be leaders on the team, guys that can really be the kind of the core as we build the rest out, guys who can really kind of set the culture. I don't think there's any better than Kevin Byard setting that culture, right? Kevin Byard's going to be great. Next really big name is Darius Williams. He's 31 years old. He's been, a long-time slot corner. I think he has a lot of, I think he has a lot of life left in him. Do I think he will play with us long-term? I don't know. He's 31. He's got 1 year left on him. He was kind of too much quality to pass up. He's been good, and he's been good for a long time. To be put in the expansion team, only 1 year, $10 million. We have the money. We're not necessarily going to find a much better slot corner out there, and I figured might as well take a chance. Maybe we have him for 1 year. Maybe we even trade him at the deadline. I don't know. And that's something also just to bring up here, right? Another big rule with expansion teams, and it's a foundational rule with the Houston Texans, all other expansion teams that have come before. You can't trade these players until in season, right? You can cut them and get rid of them, but that's a big rule. You can't just go, oh, I want him. All right, now I'm immediately trading him. That concept doesn't apply. You'd have to still pay the contract, and so it doesn't necessarily work. And there was rules against it. You can't turn and flip and trade immediately these guys. It was the kind of foundational rule. We're going to kind of stick to that rule, but hey, trade deadline, maybe things are different depending on where we're at, right? This is a long-term play, in general. Next big one that I think really is a long-term fit is Jerome Baker, middle linebacker of our defense. He's 27 years old. He comes from Ohio State. Mike Vrabel's an Ohio State guy. I think there's a serious opportunity for this guy to be a very real player for us. Not only just a real player, but I think a long-term fit. The reason the Dolphins got rid of him, he has a cap hit of $14 million. They're in cap hell. He had a little bit of injuries, but he's really been a good football player, and I think somebody that could be a really good leader, call player. I mean, guy who's calling the plays on our defense. Somebody that could be really good for us for a while. The rest of these guys are really just kind of to fill out the roster, to give us a little bit of depth. We have some youth at the outside linebacker position. I have some hope for Cameron Thomas here. Comes from the Cardinals. He's 24 years old. They also got Mathis, a rookie last year. Murphy, a former Mike Vrabel player. He's an undrafted player that was on Tennessee Titans last year. He doesn't even have a face. Undrafted. The cool thing about him, I looked him up. He actually led the D2 in sacks, like set records for leading in sacks. So I thought it was a cool little nugget. He played for Mike Vrabel. Why not bring him on? He's young. He was a rookie last year. Coming into his second season, I think it's a great pair. Then to round it off, we got Dean Lowry, John Kaminsky, both players that have kind of starting caliber, type of potential to them. Do I necessarily think they're long-term fits? No. John Kaminsky's 28 years old. Dean Lowry is 30 years old. I think maybe they'll end up fighting it out for minutes between each other for playing time. But I think they're just good players to have. Both of them started on multiple teams. Lowry, a longtime starter for the Packers. Kaminsky, just coming from the Lions. He started the past 2 seasons for them. Solid run-stopping, 3-4 defensive ends. They played in that position their whole lives. I think they're good culture, good scheme fit players. Deshaun Wright isn't necessarily a fit. He's actually a zone type of corner, but he's 6'4". He's a 6'4 corner. I couldn't pass on him. He's young. He's a former third-round pick, 26 years old. I think there's some potential there. You got to tread the tires when you got to spin those tires when it's an expansion draft. You got to test things out. So overall, this is the expansion draft. These are the players that I picked. I think there's, a lot of opportunity here. The biggest thing is going to be filling the rest of it out. Legitimate starters that I think are on our roster. We have potentially the two tackle positions, Stanley, Leno. We have Bosman, who's going to take an interior lineman position with two holes for starters at the interior line. We got a tight end, potentially one of our starting receivers, potentially a starting running back, but there's a big hole at quarterback, big hole at wide receiver, 2 receivers, big hole at guard positions or center, depending on where Bosman goes. Defensively, we're going to have a starting safety, that's for sure, with Byard. Starting middle linebacker, that's for sure. Starting slot corner, that's for sure. Everything else isn't. I think Cameron Thomas has potential. I think Kaminsky and Lowry have some potential to maybe be starters this year. Outside of that, we have a lot of work to do. So I'm excited about this. I think there's a lot of potential on where this could go. I'm really excited to see, what we can do. This is the first step, expansion draft, right? Let's see what we can do now that we have these core players. Next phase of this is going to be diving in to free agency. Well, thanks for tuning in to the first episode of the Oakland Sentinels Expansion Rebuild Series. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Make sure also to have those notifications on for episode 2 coming out, where we dive into free agency and the draft when we fill out the rest of this roster. Obviously, as you can tell from this episode, it is needed. We're hoping to get that championship in 5 years. It's going to be a tough task, but we're trying to break that record that the Las Vegas Knights set in pro sports. It's something that I think is doable if we do it the right way. So look forward to you guys coming to the next one. If you want to know how I put together this franchise mode, make sure to check out my other video on creating an expansion team in Madden 2024. It should give a great description on and walk through exactly how I went about doing this. Well, until the next time we see each other, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.